Syria has fallen. It is now in the hands of opposition forces. The Assad regime has entirely collapsed, and Assad himself has fled to Russia. And all of this begun in the rapid capture of Aleppo, their most economically powerful and largest city. While Aleppo fell into rebel hands, a coup was already taking place down in Damascus, where tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of Syrian troops either surrendered or defected to the enemy armies. The Middle East and some major power brokers like the United States and China are scared because they are worried about a potential resurgence of Islamist influence, with special emphasis on the most powerful group, HTS, led by Abu Muhammad al-Golani. He is clearly the most powerful person in Syria at the moment, and in 2013, due to his earlier leanings, the United States labeled him a terrorist. But to be fair, he broke away from AQ and settled into a more moderate stance, but it is still fairly hardline. But Syria expert Joshua Landis claims that we don't have too much to fear. His exact words are, Golani has been smarter than Assad, he's retooled, he's refashioned, made new allies, and come out with his charm offensive. But let's be honest, America really sucks at picking leaders that can ensure stability in the Middle East. Golani has spent 5 years in a US prison. I don't know if he's going to look upon US influence in the region favorably. But I could be wrong. Hopefully he is a great man that can look past this and do what's best for the Syrian people. And there's promise of that because he declared he wanted a peaceful transfer of power, so Syrian state institutions are actually still under the supervision of the Assad-appointed prime minister until there's a successful handover. The HTS has made claims that minorities do not have much to fear, unless you happen to be Kurdish. Aleppo is housing 100,000 Kurds right now, and they are still besieged, surrounded by HTS fighters. And there's Turkey. They are the Syrian opposition's main foreign backer, and they hate the Kurds. Now, since there is no Syrian army to oppose them, these Turkish-backed militias are attacking the Kurds in the Kurdish-controlled region of northeastern Syria. The Kurds have been one of the US's most staunch allies in Syria and Iraq, and the only reason why Syria has had some semblance of stability in the north is because of the Kurds. And Turkey does have to be careful because they don't want to tick off Washington, since they are the ones who throw the most support behind the Syrian Kurdish groups. But of course, the United States government is over the moon that Assad is finally out, because it means two of our main enemies are severely weakened: Russia and Iran. I've made an earlier post about it and I've connected it to this video. Take a look. I will say that Assad is currently in Russia right now because they promised Russia that whatever is left of the Syrian army will protect whatever Russian interests are in Syria. Russia relies on the city of Tartus to get access to the Mediterranean Sea, which it looks like they are likely to lose. Iran stands to lose much, much more. Syria is a Shia-ruled country, just like Iran, but that's no longer going to be the case. Iran relied on using Syria as a staging ground to train their troops against any Western interests. And in my opinion, the most important thing is that Iran relied on Syria to transport their troops into Lebanon to resist Israel through Hezbollah. Speaking of Israel, they promised that they will destroy Syria's strategic heavy weaponry. And look at that, Israel deploys paratroopers into Syria. I wonder, to do what? Oh, look, they hit the suspected chemical weapon sites. Like I said in my earlier video, Syria was a huge nexus of Russian and Iranian power, and it looks like that's gone. It doesn't matter if Assad makes promises on paper to protect Russian interests still in Syria if he no longer rules the country. His army has been defecting and surrendering. The most influential Russian war blogger, Rybar, has even said that Russia's military presence in the Middle East now hangs by a thread. There's something else very important I want to tell you about American strategy. In 2019, it was seen as an irreparable loss when US troops began to primarily withdraw from Syria. It was even more of a humiliation when Russian troops began to occupy previously held US territory. Yet look what happened in just 5 years. Assad's gone, for now. Keep this in your mind. As long as Bashar al-Assad is alive and in allied hands, then he's still a threat and he may still try and succeed in reclaiming power in Syria. And if there is an unmanageable power vacuum in that country for a few years, then the Middle East will probably welcome him back. Especially if we have people like former Congresswoman and national disgrace Tulsi Gabbard in any position of power. She is quite chummy with Assad, claims that he is not the enemy of America. She also made the same pro-Russian claims that there are biolabs in Ukraine, over 30 of them, that make nothing but terrible diseases. And she uses this claim to justify the Russian aggression in that country. Let's just use our brains. If the United States is going to create something so sensitive, they would need to do this in a country that is not only in full cooperation with the US, but has the security to ensure that these labs can never be breached by an outside force. The biolabs have to be done across the Atlantic Ocean. Why not Poland? Why not Israel or Saudi Arabia? Places that are very strong US allies and can resist any type of outside invasion. Anyway, back to Syria. China is quite worried because they were relying on Syria to be a platform to launch any kind of counter to the West, especially the United States. Now that's up in question because if there is Islamic extremism, nothing can be set up there to suit Chinese interests. India is also worried because they relied on Syria to be a critical route for energy and other trade interests. But aside from Iran and Russia freaking out, so is Algeria. The entirety of Northern Africa, no other country has given such diplomatic support to Syria than Algeria. They both have authoritarian regimes, and even though Syria is Shia-run and Algeria is Sunni-run, they had a quite amicable relationship. Both countries had a strong stance of anti-interventionism, but they were also anti-Islamist. Now Algeria lost its key supporter in this endeavor. Either way, the fall of Syria is a huge win for the West, especially for the United States, but most of all, Israel, because now Iran no longer has a safe route to aid terrorism against the country. It is a major tactical, economic, and diplomatic loss for Russia and Iran, and it is spooking China and India for now. Can Syria achieve some kind of stability in the coming days? Only time will tell. I am the Geo Husar. I am always happy when a dictator loses. Thanks for watching.